As an old curmudgeon, I'm going to talk about three things that worry me, that are happening in the field, in ascending order of significance, it seems to me. The first event that is going on now is the emergence of a fad or fashion for something called social bonds. These are ways of finding private money to achieve social ends and to capitalize an attempt to achieve a social end, such as transitioning of people from prison into productive jobs. And that somehow or another, the thought is, well, we can get people who have money to invest in a social purpose here. Now, what's wrong with that? Certainly not too much is wrong with that, but I see that as a new thing which narrows our focus if we are concerned with community economic development. That narrows our concern, that focuses on only those things that can prove that they succeed with some kind of measurable impact. How many people did indeed move from prison into a productive job? I think it also suggests that somehow or another, things which should be our common function and our common concern can be turned off into a project that will deal with a social problem. Okay, so I am warning you to look out for people who are saying the next great thing is social bonds, an investment in the community in a way in which I think distracts us and turns us in directions in which we ought not to go. The next trend that I see that worries me is the emphasis on social enterprise instead of community economic development. I think that you dealt with that in part, and I'd like to emphasize it. This is easier to succeed in, to produce a social enterprise that, not that it is easy, but it is simply easier to take a single project and work on it and get it to succeed off the ground and doing the kinds of things that it's supposed to do in terms of a social output, as well as developing a surplus money return. It's also easier to see the results in a social enterprise than in a program, a strategy of community renewal, community economic development. And so that is a kind of siren song that can distract us from what I think is should be and needs to be a major guiding concern of community economic development. Because we leave off the concern for the multidimensional and interactional problem that community economic development attacks. It is not one single thing. It is not one single thing that's happening. Although you may be successful in one single thing, have you transformed the community? Have you started on the process of transforming the community? Are you in a process in which you think and you can say, I will prevail with a social enterprise? It's a very modest goal and attempt. And yet that is, so much attention is now being placed on the social enterprise and its process and its capitalization. So that's the second kind of thing that worries me. Let me tell you, I'm not against social enterprises. I see a social enterprise as part of a community economic development strategy. But it is only one little piece of it. And that if you are concerned with building social enterprises, you are missing the problem of the depleted community that needs this redevelopment effort. And I should say, I'm not against private money coming in to achieve social ends through the social bonds either. All I'm just saying is, it worries me that people are thinking in the direction of these very, very partial efforts. The third thing that worries me, and here I will really needle you, and that is, I'm worried about a tendency to look at community economic development as an industry, as a profession, as a specialty, as something that you can get an MBA in. There is an emphasis out of that sort of perspective upon technique as opposed to values, on the technology of the field as opposed to its purposes and the values that it is engaged in and what we are all about. Now, I'm not saying you're bad if you want a master's degree. I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is that there is a difference between the technology of this field and the purposes of it. And the purposes of it can get lost in the academic processes of a degree program. And it reduces an interest and concern for other practitioners and the kinds of problems and successes that they may have and the kinds of things that we can do together. Because this has to be a common activity, not my business, not my profession, not my career, which I am getting further knowledge and capacity for, and by the training that I'm going. I see this notion of the professionalization of the field as a movement towards respectability, as contrasted with the troublemaker that the community economic development practitioner has to be. Because how else are you going to change things without rocking the boat some? Now, I'm not saying one has to be a revolutionary, a rebel of some kind. I'm saying that, a concern with respectability here can take you away from the fact that you have to be a little unrespectable in challenging government, in challenging business, in challenging the concepts of the economy that this whole culture is dependent upon. Let me take you one example. Can you imagine a world without interest being paid on money? Can you? Is that possible? Yes, it has been possible. There is a bank that doesn't charge interest for lending money. And it makes a lot of difference in terms of where the money goes to, in the payment of interest or in the usefulness of the loan. How can you lend money without interest? The Jack Bank does it. The Jack Bank is successful. The Jack Bank has many different branches that help people buy homes, start businesses, and develop community infrastructure. We need to know about that, and we need to think in different kinds of terms than the usual frame of reference. I guess I really want to emphasize that for our work, we need to be concerned with the purpose and the challenge and the change that has to take place, not simply the technologies that we use, the way to raise money, the way to carry out the local strategies.